Yo, so I wanted to make a quick video. I posted something yesterday, which was September 11th, 2024, and I had posted it on my Twitter or X account. And if I pull this up, I got two Twitter or X accounts. I use them for different purposes. It's like an artistic thing. I say, uh, or whatever you want to call it. But in any instance, I have two, and so I posted on my Yomat Yaw, and then I reposted on my other. And this is something that had happened previously, where on this post, I responded to this and I pointed out that it was literally Russian propaganda and that the Arabs, as Mossab Hassan Youssef here is pointing out that the Palestinians didn't have birth certificates from Palestine. There wasn't a Palestine. That these are Arabs that are pretending to be the Philistines, which is comes into English as Palestinians, but it's the Philistines. In Arabic and Hebrew, it's really obvious. In Arabic, it's Philistini. That's what you'd call a Palestinian. Anyway, I'm pointing out that they're just Arabs pretending to be the Jews' ancient enemy. And it's like, people here in the West are pretty ignorant of these things, but like, very clearly that's what it is. And that, in the Bible talks very clearly about Gaza and Philistia and the Philistines. And here I also repointed out that they're two different groups, right? God helped him against the Philistines and the Arabs, right? And you can see I even have these words for Arabs here, and probably this is where Arabs literally get their name from. I would assume actually is or at least like these are some of the oldest written references to Arabs. But in any instance, the Bible kind of points this out really in a way that is difficult to deny. They're two different people groups, right? And it even says here, like, first of all, Philistines, literally the term means immigrant, and so that means they're not the indigenous people, and an inhabitant of Philistia, descendants of Mizraim, Egyptians who immigrated from Kaftor, Crete, like Crete, to the western sea coast of Canaan. So, in other words, not indigenous, which is a claim levied against the Jews and Israelites. But you can actually go and read the whole Bible story of how the Israelites get there and how the land is purchased, like the Temple Mount land and stuff like that. So, what is not conquested is bought, like specifically the Temple Mount. But okay, so yesterday I made this post specifically about. Oh, and then here's where TV host on Muslim Brotherhood channel affiliated with Hamas. All homosexuals without exception should be killed, burn them alive, throw them off a high place, or stone them to death. I wonder what Queers for Palestine would think. For whatever reason, the left here in America doesn't realize that these are the most hard right people on the planet. There are no people that I can think of that are further on the right, like globally, or they would be further right than the most conservative Americans with their Bibles here, because the Bible doesn't say, by the New Testament, the Bible is, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Love your brothers, love your neighbor as yourself, that type of thing. Love, a lot about love, a lot less about stoning and burning people. But in any instance, that's how Christians are called to live now. Is like in that light, as opposed to the Old Testament style, whereas Muslims are called to do what it says in the Quran. And if they don't, the Quran says they're not Muslims. That's just the reality of it. People can claim to be moderate Muslims. If they aren't following what it says in the Quran, they aren't Muslims. That's the Quran lays out the guidelines itself. You don't have that same leeway as you do in Christianity, where it's a spirit that you're supposed to live in. and the commandments are love. In Islam, it's the commandments are what is commanded in the various surahs, and if you don't do it, you aren't a Muslim. You aren't going to their version of heaven or paradise. Additionally, really the only assured way is actually to die fighting in the cause of Islam. So, my point with this video is that when I get to this, my post from yesterday, see, I thought maybe like this specific post here by this person, Vivid Prowess, was maybe it was itself shadow banned. As I say here, this post got shadow banned, but the reality is the same. And by shadow banned, I mean when I copy this and I open up, I try to post it or share it with somebody, it won't let me. It says the page doesn't even exist. It says my post doesn't exist. And now part of the issue with Twitter, or X, is that you can't even look at accounts without having an account. And so, at least it seems to me. And so when I'm logged into my account, it doesn't it doesn't ban me from seeing my own posts. So it's kind of trying to do this like it is a shadow ban. That's why I'm saying it's a shadow ban. And it does that to this post as well, right? Where I'm not sure. I don't think it does this with this post. We can see. No, it doesn't. You can actually see the post here. I can't, again, because of the thing, it wants you to sign up. I can't see anything else, but it lets you see the original post. So this is something to do with my specific account, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And then furthermore, it does that with both of these. So, okay, well, I thought maybe it was just linked to that account, but no. When I go to this post that I made yesterday, and this is just a reminder that large crowds of Palestinians in East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza celebrated on 9/11 after hearing reports that up to 20,000 Americans might have been killed. They took to the streets to dance, chant Allahu Akbar, and offer people celebratory sweets. And let's see if we
signs of victory being displayed in East Jerusalem today among jubilant Palestinians that the United States had been subject to this attack. What are we to make of that, Jennifer? Are we to, Yasser?
Again, Arabs pretending to be the Jews' ancient enemy because Quranically, the Jews are, the enemy of Allah, and it just says a bunch of evil stuff, despite the fact that the children of Israel, like David, is given victory over Goliath, Dawood and Jalut, and Jalut is of a people that are, bad people that Allah subjects literally to the Israelites, and he gives them the land. Okay, that would be what they call Palestine. So, their whole thing is based on a lie as far as them trying to argue. Like, nowhere in the Quran does it say the Palestinians. It doesn't mention Palestinians. You just have to know that Goliath is what would be called a modern day Palestinian, and that Goliath is, not. He doesn't follow Allah, and David, the king of Israel, does follow Allah according to the Quran because it's a knockoff. He followed Yahweh, but it's a way to give the power of God to a different deity other than Yahweh. That's the point of Islam. It's a knockoff that the Arabs are using to siphon the power of deity. Everything about it, even the black stone. It's like, well, there's a white stone and in the New Testament in Revelation, and then that's the stone of Israel from Genesis 49, or from when it talks about the cornerstone. Well, what do you think the cornerstone in Mecca that they kiss that forgives their sins, exactly like Jesus would? And Jesus is the white stone. Okay, well then you get that it's just all a knockoff, and that it's some Arabs trying to steal this away from the Jews because they're big fans of the Jews. That's just the reality. Their religion is a derivative religion. Their language is a derivative language, and they want all the places that the Jews live in for themselves. They're a bunch of fans. They follow a knockoff. It's pretty pathetic that they don't just engage that that's the reality and move on with it, that they actually go on murderous rampages and do stuff like this. But yeah,
Arafat may issue this condemnation. Look at this. We're seeing people applauding, clapping, smiling, happy to know.
The same people that are out on the streets marching for Palestine now, right? Like they're like supportive of this. Like this is after October 7th. This is this is what the Palestinians were doing. Palestinians, the Arabs pretending to be Philistines, and just in reality, yesterday was September 11th, 2024. People marching in the street for Palestine, I thought was honestly, it's like if you're an American, it should be pretty disgusting. And the reason I'm saying that is specific. Well, first of all, let's finish this video.
Know that thousands of Americans have died in this sneak attack, and there you see a V for victory sign.
Sneak attack by Muslim agitators. They follow a knockoff religion that can be secularly and academically disproven, which you cannot do with the Bible. You can secularly and academically and archaeologically disprove the claims of Islam, and just anybody with a brain is like, yeah, it's a knockoff of what it says in the Bible. That was really obvious. Every story is just ripped out of the Bible, else it's ripped from other places. None of it's original. None of their places are original. They're stolen. Everything is stolen. Islam is just everything is stolen. That's just the reality of it. If you don't like it, don't follow it. Follow Yahweh, not some knockoff of Yahweh. Allah is just a generic title in the Old Testament. It's one of the terms meaning deity. El means deity or God, right? Allah, you add a hey at the end. It's just a variant of that word. Elohim is used for God the most out of that. That is, you put a yod and a mim after the hey. So aleph lamed hey yod mim. That's the word most Jews use for God. But who is God? Who is God? Yahweh, right? That's why you say hallelujah. That's who Jesus was claiming to be. Jesus wasn't claiming anything about Allah. Allah is a generic title. In the Old Testament, that could be a false God. Like when that kind of title is used, it could be a real God or a false God. That's the point. It's just some knockoff Arab bullshit. And I'm not coming from a place of like, oh, I hate all Arabs. I'm like, all right, well, secularly, what is this? Because I just pointed out, right, when I'm showing you this stuff, like very clearly, right, Arabs and Palestinians are different people groups, right? Right? This is very clearly talking about the people that we would modern day call Palestinians, because it's literally specifically for Gaza and Philistia, right? Okay, and even just again today, and why? The 3 or 4 crimes of Gaza, because they've deported entire nations as slaves to Edom. They're an evil people group. But, Yahweh holds all these different people groups, including Israel and Judah, to a certain standard. And when they don't meet that standard, Yahweh deals with them in a way that God would deal with some kind of people group that he's judging. Okay, judgment on the neighbors of Israel and on Israel itself. There you go. So Yahweh would do that. Yah, the God of the Jews. That's why they're called the Yahud. Okay. But yeah, here I point how Abby Martin literally works for Russian propaganda. It was interesting to me that a bunch of people got within like a week of me posting this, right? Like last week, the Tenet thing, where all those people got in trouble for Russian propaganda. I also thought it was interesting that it was named Tenet, and like Tenet has this scene where like some kind of opera house is attacked, and didn't some kind of Muslim terrorist attack happen where they literally attacked some opera house or concert hall in Russia like earlier this summer or something? Yeah, that did happen, and it was almost like that. It looks like that concert hall, but in any instance, I can say for sure that what I'm saying here is just reality. And like, oh, hey, look, the word of Yahweh that was addressed to Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah. That's why the book Jeremiah. against the Philistines before Pharaoh took Gaza by storm. Yahweh says this. In other words, you know, not the only people group that, like the Philistines, the ancient Philistines weren't just pissing off Israel. They were, warring against all sorts of people. So, Egypt and Pharaoh came and dealt with them. But, okay, so when we're looking at this and
held up to the camera.
Youth was quoted as saying as he received a sweets handed around in celebration, "This is a sweet from Osama bin Laden," he said.
We have some videotape, I understand, that we're going to show you from the West Bank. These are Palestinian celebrations in the wake of Tuesday's terror attacks in the United States. How apparently Palestinians took to the street chanting, "God is great." People were throwing candy, distributing.
Yeah, which God? Certainly not Yahweh, the God that their God is a knockoff of. No, not that God. Not Yahweh. Their God is some kind of demon spirit, because it's just a knockoff of Yahweh. And a demon is any spiritual entity that isn't Yahweh is essentially a demon, right? Including other things that are called deities. It's just linguistically what it is.
Putting candy to passersby, threw sweets in the air, saying, actually that's a woman, pardon me, saying she was happy because, quote, America is the head of the snake.
Yeah, somehow America is the head of the snake, yet this is how these people act during all this terrorist stuff. And remember, the thing is like, oh, it's a genocide. From 1948 to like now, the population of Gaza has like significantly increased, like more than doubled. You know what I mean? That's not a genocide. That's not how genocides work. So in this kind of Arab math that they're doing, no, that doesn't work out in like, thinking people math. Right? You get that? Okay, good. So, and am I saying that most of these people are unthinking? I mean, do you think every person here in the West is going to believe this bullshit? Like, very clearly, most people are fooled by it. Lots of people are fooled by it. But, just in reality, it's bullshit. Islam is bullshit. Most of this, what's going on here with the Arabs and the Philistines, it's just like, yeah, those aren't the ancient Philistines, right? The ancient Philistines are gone. They no longer exist as a people group. And they didn't look like the Arabs. They weren't Arabs. They were different people. You get it? I mean, they might have looked a bit because they were, the Arabs are kind of somewhat Egyptian. Kind of, somewhat. They're a mixed people group. As you can even see that on the basis of what their name means. See, Arabia, mixed. Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, Arabs, Arabians, to mix together, to join together, to commingle. There you go. So, seemingly they're some kind of mixed people group. That's the Arabs. Okay, well, I mean, the Bible is very just straightforward. The meanings are very logical on these things. But, yeah, so the reason I posted this yesterday was it's like the, 22nd, 23rd anniversary, and I made this video. Like, Joel and I made this video, this Fringecraft video, in like 2021, and then in 2020, or maybe in 2020, and then in 2021 or something like that, I made on the 20th anniversary. So I guess that would have been 2021. I made another video, but this video was about William Cooper predicting the attacks would be blamed on bin Laden, and you can get whatever from these names and whatever's going on here. But that's not the point of the video. The point of the video specifically is to show, like, look, hey, it's another one of these things where a post that I've made is just like shadow banned. It doesn't exist. Like, I can't pull it up on my phone. I can't send it to anybody. So my account's blocked. And some of this seems to have happened after Elon Musk bought this, and it could just be because like a bunch of people are doing evil shit towards me, and I don't think Elon's it doesn't seem like doing anything good. He could be more of this Russian, like, agent or propaganda stuff. I don't know. But I'll tell you this, Elon is also a biblical name. You can literally find it in in this Strong's Concordance that I've shown these, where Arabs and Philistines and all these names come from. I mean, you can find the name Elon. So or where his name comes from specifically in Strong's Concordance. But okay, so the reason specifically I even made this comment is because uh, Osama bin Laden says his jihad against the West. So 9/11 happened because of the jihad that Osama bin Laden had. Remember, he was a Saudi national. So he's linked to the Saudi government. He's from an influential Saudi family. Again, I don't really understand how these people are our allies, because it seems like a bunch of very wealthy Arabs have been trying to like subvert and undermine our country for quite a while, and not just them, Russians and all sorts of other people groups, but that it's been pretty successful because they got a lot of money to throw at the problem, or what they perceive as a problem. It is what it is. So I think they just throw money at people. I look at how they deal with sports things and like, oh, we want to create a sports league, $30 billion. So just throw money at whoever the fuck, bring them over here, whether they can actually sustain a league or not. So, because they're trying to, control the global zeitgeist, like what's popular, what's not popular. They got more money than they got sense. So, anyway, here's Osama bin Laden said his jihad against the West was because the U.S., quote unquote, the U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine, ... and it goes on. And so I shared the video, the Fringecraft video. It's from a CNN interview. It's not like I just made this up. And so let's watch this real fast. And yeah.
Mr. bin Laden, you have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
The U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the U.S. is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq.
In other words, 9/11 happened because Osama bin Laden had this jihad going because, Palestine. Palestine this, Palestine that. 20 years later, we're still dealing with the same bullshit. It's still a bunch of lying Arabs that lie about their religion, lie about their culture, that are Jew-hating, that are just like, reprehensible people. That's Islam. That's, at this point, Arabs. If you're an Arab and you don't believe that, prove me wrong. There's a few people that are actually Arab Christians like Al-Fadi and, I'm not every Arab person, but it's like, this is culturally what the Arabs believe. A lot of it is based on Islam. They were converted. Their families were converted by the edge of the sword because that's what Islam does. And, it's an Arabicized version of Christianity and Judaism. It's a heretical offshoot based actually of Christianity because Judaism doesn't talk anything about Jesus. Jesus is somehow the Messiah in Islam, but that title means nothing because it's a garbage book that doesn't actually have any bearing on reality, other than a bunch of people believe it and will kill you over that belief, which is exactly what it says in the New Testament will happen. That these people will kill you, thinking they're doing it for God, and that's who they exactly. Oh, Allah Akbar. All right, God is great. Which God? Certainly not Yahweh, because you're killing His people and you ain't acting like He's asked you to act. You get what I'm saying? So I mean, these people are just fucking out of line. And it's causing problems all around the world. You can see Europe starting to realize it as their countries are falling into disrepair and they're spending all this money on people who are not going to assimilate into their cultures and who commit violent acts because that's what Islam leads to. Violence, hate, murder, rape, all the stuff that you saw on October 7th, all the stuff that you see on 9/11. Don't give me the it's a peaceful religion bullshit. I've read the Quran. You're lying. It's not peaceful. It doesn't ask you to be peaceful. It's not even if you really want peaceful and loving, go read a Bible. It's way more peaceful and loving. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So, anyway, I just wanted to post this because it's I'm pretty sure something is and has been blocking my whatever, but that slowly and surely, whatever it is, people in positions of power around it are dying of cancer and stuff at such an accelerated rate that it should be really obvious. Yo, if I'm the dude conquering at the 7 churches of Asia, from Revelation, which it seems like, I am, because of whatever's going on with Alessandra Ambrosio and like whatever's going on around with these women, that there's she is like literally this Jezebel character, it seems like. I mean, it seems like it. Damn sure seems like it to me. I mean, are her kids actually my kids biologically, and like someone's doing some evil shit, or is this some kind of weird, like, the guy that she had him with is like, she only did it, she picked someone that like looked like me, and so they kind of look like me, or no, they're just actually my kids, and someone's been abusing me with my own biological children, and are they really my kids if I didn't consent to it, and I've never been able to like meet them, and it just seems like they're being used to psychologically abuse me. I mean, should I even say they're my kids? I mean, I'm the one sitting here like, hey, yeah, I want to be a good, if I'm dad, I want to be a good dad, but it seems like the whole thing was to like, essentially rape me and, abuse me psychologically with my own children. So, and, if that started with Anja as my kid, then they started this when I was 16, and this was allowed to happen here in the United States of America. And it seems that she would be connected either, I mean, is she connected to some kind of American thing, or is this something like, the Jaime or Jamie Mazur thing? He looks pretty Mediterranean. He reminds me of Mert Alas, the Turkish photographer from Mert and Marcus. So is he Turkish or what? He, Mediterranean. He could be Greece. He could be Israeli. I mean, is that what this is? So someone really has fucked up. That's what I'm trying to point out, because I can absolutely see for sure people around this situation are dying after I started saying that people around this situation would start dying. Let alone the stuff that you can see on my YouTube channel where I'm doing like, lightning shit that seems like I have superpowers or something. Or maybe you just call that the divine power of Yahweh working through someone who actually believes in him. Let me click this video. I have lightning powers. I mean, but, don't just go with that 7-second thing. Why don't you just go through my playlist of, like, the Lightning Lab videos here, and you can see, lots of instances of it. And I think this is even with them trying, like, to nullify my powers by doing evil fucking weird spiritual bullshit and witchcraft and shit like that. So, in any instance, I think these people have really fucked up badly, and I just wanted to show that even when you're trying to shadow ban me, the ban is going to be lifted, and whoever's doing it, I think they're dead. I think they're dead men or women walking. And, Jezebel dies. That's what happens in Revelation 2:20, right? And it seems to describe the situation, the second and third chapters of Revelation seem to, like, be a bunch of if-then statements that describe a situation that I find myself in and that I seem to be conquering in, like getting through, despite the fact that it is pretty reprehensible what seems to have happened to me and that appears to be happening to me. And so, yeah. Anyway, I guess this was all to just say, well, yeah, 9/11 happened because the whole Israel-Palestine thing. It's because these Arabs, for a while, have been supporting this lie that the modern-day Palestinians are like the ancient Philistines or something, and that they've been there for a long time. But that's just not the case. Like, they aren't. They're Arabs. You ask them, they say they're Arabs. I mean, they don't like it's Arab identity. Well, that's because, by the way, whenever they say, "Oh, it's a Jewish conspiracy," like it's a more obvious conspiracy that this was like this whole Arab world like creation of a Palestine that didn't exist. Like there's a mandate territory after the Ottoman Empire for a little bit, but they didn't start a country in 1948 when they were given the opportunity. Instead of starting a country like any good people, they started a violent conflict, but laughably lost it. And then ever since then, they just continually keep with this cycle of starting violent conflicts and losing them really badly. And no, there's no paradise for them. They go straight to second death, burning, eternal torture. Why? Because they believe in a knockoff of Yahweh and definitely don't believe in Jesus in the way that he asked. So It just is what it is. And if you don't believe the religious thing, I don't care. They do. That's the thing. They believe some bullshit. You don't have to believe in the bullshit that they believe for them to believe in that bullshit and for them to act on that bullshit. So that's just the reality to anybody who's like, I don't believe in religion, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, these idiots, they believe in a knockoff of the Bible. And they die for it as if it was what it says in the Bible. But even then, you know what Jesus wants you to do? He wants you to live for him. He doesn't want you to die for him. And if you do die for him, then you know what I mean? Like, you live because he's the one that controls life and death. Allah is a knockoff of him. So, okay. I just have to, like, you know, it's this whole thing I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours about, but I'm not going to. I'm going to end this video here, and, like, it is the reality of this situation. It is the reality of this situation that, first of all, I appear to be shadow banned on X or Twitter. Also, is this what the Stephanie Houston hostage X thing was about, or what? I mean, seems like that's, you know, that she was in that. Yeah. Like, you know, she did that whole, what's that called? Becoming Alessandra thing, and then, so, you know, she seems to be tied to whatever this situation is. And it's just like, what is it? You know, I'm trying to figure it out. Hostage X, yeah. Hostage X. And then, what else? What was I gonna pull up? Oh, don't let me forget. I don't know. You know, my guess is that she's just another one of these, like, kind of idiots that's fooled into believing whatever the opposite of what I've just said is. Like, you got a whole bunch of people that are these days believe the, like, politically correct, like, there's a genocide going on over there, and it's like, these people, like, no other people group in the world have been given the kind of, like, opportunities to form a nation that the so-called Palestinians have over and over and over again, and yet they don't take it. They just violently try to attack the Jews again, and it never works. It has never worked. I don't think it will ever work. I don't think these people have learned just the reality of this situation. You aren't gonna, like, take over. If God, Yahweh, has said something, he's gonna follow it through, unlike Allah. But, you know, I do believe, again, as I've said, the 1260-day period and Mark of the Beast stuff, I think it has something to do with Islam. The beast from the earth is literally mentioned in the Quran as something risen by believers or Allah. I don't know, it's not super clear because it's a book that's not super clear, despite saying it's a super clear book. It's actually a really muddled and kind of inconsistent, incoherent book, but, you know, I have a brain, and most of the people that read it and believe it don't. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. I don't have anything else to add. Hopefully, you know, whatever's blocking, and we move on to a place where nobody dies anymore. This is what all this bullshit that they're doing is getting in the way of, like, a literal kingdom of heaven on earth where people don't die anymore. And, like, I don't think there's any resource issues. Everybody has what they need. It's just a better reality. But until then, I think we got to deal with a bunch of these people pretending, you know, they follow a knockoff of Yahweh, and then they just want to go kill a bunch of Jews. Just is what it is. I can see that that's how it's playing out now. It's been playing out like that for a while now. So, you know, I do think we're getting close to that 1260-day period. their temple looks like it's, I think they got those red heifers over there. They're ready to sacrifice. So, anyway. Okay, well, at some point soon, I'll make a video. My whole claim about Alessandra Ambrosio, it's like, I'll make a video where I show you you can compare the pictures of me and her kids. In the least, her son specifically has my nose. It looks like her sister's children also have my features. But, maybe that's, I don't know. My whole thing is like, well, I can't really DNA test them from here. They're taunting me from afar. I think that's been the point, is that, to do this to me and then taunt me from afar and psychologically harass and abuse me, which is kind of what it talks about in Daniel, where it seems like the people of God are, harassed and attacked by some kind of thing. So, I think it's something to do with that. But in any instance, yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, I don't give a fuck. So don't leave a comment if you didn't. If you did, sure, leave a comment. Leave a comment. There's certain people that have left comments, and I know that they're leaving comments, but I've marked their comments as spam, so I'm not getting them. So just, if that's you, tough shit. You shouldn't have left whatever shitty comment you left that made me mark your comments as spam. If what I'm saying sounds agreeable, because it's just the obvious reality and not some kind of farcical narrative written by some illiterate Muslim or illiterate Arab who created a religion, that's Islam, 1400 years ago. That's, yeah. All right. That's it. Have a blessed one. I'll catch you next time. Later. Yeah.